What's going on, Washington fans? Welcome to the JTFB channel. And the draft is over, and Washington went to work on signing some undrafted free agents. Some of them are really notable. I'm going to go through all of them. Washington did sign 10 undrafted free agents after the draft, and I think they're finally done. So it's safe to put this video out. But my luck, they'll sign some on this afternoon. But if so, I'll just update it in the comments below. But they also are holding a rookie minicamp the second weekend of May, so that's coming up quick. And they have sent out some invites to that as well. And of course, the most notable one is Gabe Taylor, the younger brother of Washington football great Sean Taylor, will attend that rookie minicamp. And they haven't really, signed Gabe. I've seen some fans say, "Oh, like Gabe got signed, all this, blah blah blah." No, this is like a tryout. This is pretty much his interview to make the team. So he's got to impress at the rookie mini camp and hopefully, land a spot there through training camp, then obviously roster cuts and all that stuff, and hopefully make a roster position or at least practice squad or something like that. So obviously hoping for the best with Gabe. This has been meant to be. This has been written for a long time now. Would love to see him on the team and just really finishing. He said in his story, not, finishing Sean's story, but the story, like their story together as one, which I thought that was awesome. So they also sent invites to Maurice Smith, who's an offensive lineman from Florida State. Keegan Jones, who's a running back / kick returner from UCLA, of course, with that connection with Adam Peters. And then Colin Schley is a quarterback from Virginia Tech, but he will also get some looks at like running back, tight end, wide receiver, kind of like one of the skill position guys, kind of like Luke McCaffrey. So I think Colin will, get some other skill position tryouts and looks at the mini camp. But other than that, like I said, they signed 10 other free agents. So we'll go through this list. I found a list of all of them. And the last two might end up being two of my favorites. The more recent ones, the ones that kind of came in late, might actually be some of the most impactful ones that have a real shot at landing on the team or the practice squad. But Ben did a long list here when that first rush really went through. Offensive lineman Tim McKay from NC State, defensive tackle Ricky Barber from UCF, corners Fintrell Cypress from Florida State, transferred from Virginia. Corner Carlin Viggers from University of Louisiana Monroe. He's impressive guy. I'll talk about him. Safety Trey Rucker from Oklahoma State. And then safety Robert McDaniel from Jackson State, who they showed a lot of interest in, leading up to the draft. So a lot of these I got to really break down throughout the process. Carlin Viggers, Robert McDaniel, obviously, and a couple other ones not listed here. But then some of these other ones I really had to go through and check out some tape, check out some scouting reports, stuff like that. Kind of do like a crash course to really get to know these players so I could talk about them on the video. We'll talk about Tim McKay first off, because he's on the top of the list there. But Tim McKay is one that they really wanted. He was actually the second highest paid undrafted free agent contract after the draft. So they offered him, a big time deal. It wasn't like millions of dollars or anything like that. I want to say it was like $275K, something like that. But he was projected to have a mid-round grade before he got injured at his pro day where he tore his pec muscle. But the thing I saw out of him is very experienced. 2,784 career snaps, and he started out as a right tackle, but they moved him to right guard where he just looked, more comfortable. It looked like that was his natural position, and I'm glad they did. He only allowed 2 sacks and 5 hits on 1,151 snaps from that right guard spot. And like I said, they gave him the most money they gave out of anyone, second most out of an undrafted free agent so far after the draft. So that was a priority guy for them, someone they really wanted. This is someone that had a big time draft grade, not even just like you might be able to get him in the 7th. He had a mid-round draft grade, probably like an early 4th round grade before that injury at his pro day. But Washington really is lacking a lot of depth from the interior. And I know we can talk about Wiley sliding in. We can talk about Coleman sliding in, stuff like that. But especially from, with Sam Cosmi with his injury, and even with that, you have Nate Erbig that they signed, and then you have, Allegretti, not really sure how they feel about him moving forward. They're going to put the best 5 forward, but then after that, you really have to start building out that depth for the future. They restructured Andrew Wiley, how long is he going to be here for? Obviously, Coleman's going to be here for a while. I think Alec Brady's going to be here for a while as well. But we saw what happened last year after a couple injuries happened, especially with Biotish when Michael Dieter came in, didn't look good. I thought Trent Scott did a good job once Sam Cosmi got hurt. But that depth, like we have done a fantastic job. Well, Adam Peterson's done a fantastic job at building out that offensive line again this offseason, getting Laramie Tunzel at left tackle, getting Josh Connolly Jr. at right tackle, and then really just now beefing up that depth and making sure you have reliability behind them. So that was a big time priority for them. I like him a lot. I think he has a really good chance to make the team. And I'll go through and give my thoughts on which ones. And when I say make the team, I'm not saying even just, the final cuts, like active on game day, the final cuts. But I think Tim McKay, once again, they really wanted him. If he can heal up, get, to that spot, he's a really good depth piece. Ricky Barber, defensive tackle out of UCF. Didn't know a lot about him. He was at the Hula Bowl, so I got to see him a little bit, on social media. People talk about players that were standing out there. One thing I did notice from him, another experienced guy, 16 sacks, 34 hits, 73 hurries, in 123 pressures in 5 seasons in college. He's got a lot of juice from that interior spot. He has a knack for getting to the quarterback. That's the one thing I really saw and popped out about him. He has a nasty bull rush. He really uses his arms to, get up onto those pads and get past those interior offensive linemen and get to the quarterback. And he was one of those standout guys at the Hula Bowl. The thing for me is the D tackle spot. There's a couple bodies behind. You have your rotational. You have Dron Payne. You got Jerzon Newton. And then, of course, we went out and spent a good bit of money on Ken Law. So you have that 3. But behind them, like Eddie Goldman, he retired, came back. Don't really know what to expect. They have some bodies back there. But I think it's an open competition. And once again, he's not like some raw guy. He's developed, like he's a veteran D tackle, so who knows? I have no idea what to expect with him. I have no idea, say like he's going to make the team or practice squad or anything like that. But I'm just saying there is an opportunity there for him to compete, at the rookie. I mean, not even just rookie minicamp, but like, phase 2 and phase 3 of the offseason programs, training camp, all that good stuff to really see what he does. So I'm excited to see what he looks like in person. He can get to the quarterback. We're kind of missing some pass rushing in that interior spot. We did help, get some run stoppers in there. But if you can get to the quarterback, if you can produce and you can stop the run, I think he has a chance to at least compete for one of those practice squad spots and get his nose in the door. And then Finchell Cypress. This is a guy I knew because, one, he played at UVA, when I was living in Charlottesville. And, I was looking at him for the draft last year when I thought he was going to go and declare, but he decided to go back again. And now he's finally here and he went undrafted. And there's a lot to like about him. He is inconsistent, but he has a lot of the goods. 6 foot, 182, 32-inch arms. He ran a 4.43 40, a 38-inch vertical, 27 tackles and 5 pass deflections in 2024. He has a really good reaction in zone. He's very disciplined. He had no penalties at Florida State. So he really lets the play develop. He sits in his zone, sees guys who are coming, and he's able to, have that quick reaction time and read out the route and drop where he needs to break the pass up at the catch point or just be physical. But he's also, like I said, he's disciplined. He's not in there just being reckless. So I appreciated that about him. But he is a smooth guy to where he can follow you in man as well. He uses that athleticism to really follow those routes and man coverage. And he's got a lot of potential. That's one thing. Like I said, he needs to be a little bit more consistent. I think he could even get some, shots out at safety, but I think he projects best as an outside corner. But that room is kind of deep now. That's the only thing. If, we had the depth as last year, I would say, yeah, this guy's a lock to make the team. But now we do have a lot of bodies in that corner room. So I'm kind of worried that it might be a little too crowded between him and the guy that's coming up next and Carlin Vigors out of UL Monroe. And this is a guy we brought in for a top 30 visit. This is if I had to explain it to you, like what kind of corner he is, he's a Dan Quinn corner. Literally, he's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's big, athletic. He's lengthy, 33-inch arms. Like that screams a Dan Quinn outside corner that can just stick his hands in there, use that length to his advantage, break up passes. and he's a great press man coverage corner. That's where I think he plays his best. And Washington played a lot of zone last year, played primarily zone. I think they want to try to play a little bit more man this year coming up, especially with Trey Amos, and you'll have Mikey back in the inside, and hopefully Marshawn Lattimore can get healthy on the other side. But he can travel in deep routes, he can travel across the field. And if seen his most impressive performance this season, it was against first round draft pick to the Green Bay Packers, Matthew Golden. And according to PFF, he held him to only 19 yards that game. So if you're talking about one of those last few corner spots, like I said, it's a little crowded in there now. So I'm kind of worried about, Carlin and Fintrell. Can they actually compete to get one of those last spots? Like I said, I think they could for sure get a practice squad spot for sure. And then they can get called up if they have to develop. And I'm excited to see what you could get out of those two guys. Those are two really good corners, and they wanted both of them really bad. Once again, they liked Carlin Vigors. They met with him throughout the process. Fintrell, I'm sure they met with him too. But like I said, you got Mikey, you got Lattimore, you got Trey, you got Jonathan Jones, you got Seymour now. So maybe I don't know what Seymour could look like, but Noah Igbenogany. So there's a lot of bodies in there now, like 8 corners now. So I'm really not too sure what that's going to look like. But Adam Peters has said it so many times this offseason, competition. So they'll have a chance to compete. And if they're good enough, they're going to make it through. But I feel like these are guys that are good enough to make an NFL team. If Washington gets rid of either of them, I promise you somebody's going to pick them up and say, hey, we got a spot for them. But that's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have a crowded cornerback room after having one of the worst corner rooms for a long time. And then Trey Rucker was one that I didn't really know anything about, that I had to, once again, like crash course and really, watch some film and check out some scouting reports from, big time draft people that I respect. And the thing I got out of him, he's 5'11", 203 pounds. He's a little undersized, but he's a physical downhill defender, and he's a great read and react box safety. Now, he can play, linebacker and nickel, and he can even play free safety, and he can be out there in coverage. But for me, the closer to the line of scrimmage he is, the better he is. So I'm not saying throw my D tackle, obviously, but I think he could be one of these really good coverage linebackers, or he can just be one of those, sub package safeties that comes in. He's out there in the box. He's kind of defending, I'd call it 8 to 15 yard range. He's not dropping too far, but he does have good speed. He does have good sideline to sideline speed. But I just like his physicality more towards the box, where he's stopping the run. He's reading things out. He's tackling guys across the middle of the field. That's where I think he projects best as a safety, if he was to stay as a safety. And I think he should. I'm not just moving him to linebacker. Maybe like an Isaiah Simmons type guy, just a physical freak. Isaiah Simmons was bigger, obviously. And he also plays special teams. So I feel like, that helps him out when it comes down to these final cuts. Like, hey, what can you do for me on special teams? And Trey Rucker could be one of those guys. I think Ben spelled his name wrong, by the way. It's T-R-E, not T-R-E-Y. But he, from what I saw that in the few plays, just looking him up and seeing like how people talked about him, he fits that style of tone setting, energy. He's all over the place, and I really respected that. And then Robert McDaniel is one of my favorites. Another guy that they really, really like. They wanted him. They were hoping he didn't get drafted. 6'2", 211 pounds. He's a beast. Out of Jackson State, representing HBCU. Love to see it. Washington absolutely loved him. He can play strong safety in the block, in the box, or he can play out in coverage. I saw a lot of good coverage plays out of him, especially at 6'2", 211. Like, he can travel really well, and he uses that size to his advantage. He's another physical guy. He has a really good IQ to diagnose the play and then react to it, whether it is in coverage or it's the run coming his way. Another physical player. And Dane Brugler from The Athletic, if you've seen his draft stuff, one thing that he said really stuck out to me is that he sees some Talanoa Hufanga in Robert McDaniel, which is high praise. But if you remember who drafted Hufanga in the 5th round, it was Adam Peters. So maybe he sees that same comparison. But to be honest with you, if there's one defensive guy out of this whole bunch, out of the, the six I just talked about, I think Robert McDaniel, I'm honestly surprised he didn't get drafted. I think he would have been one of the, running for the last pick from Washington, where they obviously took Jakorey Marriott, but they really like Robert. They met with him so many times. They met with him at his pro day, the HBCU combine. They had a private, dinner with him as well. Like, there was so much contact with him. They had a private workout with him as well. So there's a lot of touch points in the off season, really leading up to the draft. So that's that little first big wave of players that really came through. And then we got some more. But just looking at those, the ones I think have a good chance to, I'm not saying locks to make the team, but have a good chance to, based off of skill sets, based off of fit, and then also need. I think Tim McKay is definitely up there. I think, man, Cypress and Viggers are tough. That's gonna be a really good battle to see if any of them get, a practice squad. And another thing is, Adam Peters is he did it last season with the whole roster turnover, kind of washed the old regime away and kind of brought in his new. I think the same can be said with like practice squad guys. Just see a lot of these practice squad guys kind of go, and then he's also getting his, few guys in too. And it's not saying that any of these guys couldn't make the, active roster, couldn't be one of those final spots. Cause I think if you told me fast forward to the beginning of the season that Cypress or Viggers are one of the last, corners on the team, or Robert McDaniel's one of the safeties, it wouldn't surprise me. Because to be honest with you, I don't really like the depth at safety, and you'll kind of notice that with me throughout this process. I did a free agent article that should be going up on Commander's Wire in the morning of available free agents that are out there that I think Washington could still sign. And I didn't look at just pass rusher. I did some safeties too, because I don't like that depth at safety. You got Quan Martin, who just had, he said he had surgery because he separated both shoulders last year, which is crazy. And then obviously you bring Will Harris over. But behind him, your depth is Percy Butler and Jeremy Reeves. I don't know about you, but I don't really feel comfortable with that being the depth. I saw too much Percy Butler last year for my liking. Inconsistent, missed some tackles, wasn't the best. So we got to get that cleaned up. He fixed a lot of spots. Corner room looks excellent. Safety room is still under construction, in my opinion. So it wouldn't surprise me if Robert McDaniel made the roster, to be honest with you. I think out of all of them, he has the best chance. And I would say McKay is next, and then I would say Viggers and Cypress are right there. But once again, not ruling out Rucker or Barber at all, because they have the opportunity to make some plays. And then the next one to come in was Jacoby Jones, wide receiver from UCF. He was another one of these guys I really didn't know anything about, so I had to kind of lean on some draft media for him. But he's a dense built guy at 6'1", 225. Really good after the catch. At his size, I would hope so. He should be running guys over, and it looked like he was. The thing about him is he ran a 4.6, 840. He didn't have much production at all in college, but he did finish strong. He had 298 of his 327 yards, came in 4 of his final 5 games of his career. So at least at that, he had that going for him. But once again, not much production. Don't really know what the plan would be for him, but he got signed and he's got opportunity to compete once again. That wide receiver room is now deep too. You have to think about Gallup. You have to think about KJ Osborne as, possibly the 7th and final wide receiver on the team, which is nuts because it seems like 2 years ago they have been wide receiver 3s on this team, which is not good. But he'll have his opportunities to compete once again. But I want to get to there's one guy that shout out to him, and these are the guys I mentioned that got the rookie minicamp invites. But I had to talk about this one. But shout out to Ale Kohu. If you know, former Alabama linebacker, had really high hopes for him. 5-star linebacker, number 1 linebacker in the country. Just couldn't really get out of that depth chart for Alabama. Obviously, linebacker. I'd say linebacker they're just putting out guys every single year, Roll Tide. But just really couldn't get out of there. He did stuff on special teams and stuff like that, but it's so many people. I mean, even now, Jahad Campbell and Deontay Lawson, like it's just a never-ending factory of linebackers going to the NFL. So he just couldn't get out of it. So then he goes to UCLA, and he had an injury in back-to-back years where he pretty much didn't play for 2 years. But he finally finished his career at UCLA last year, and he has all of the tools in the world to be a really good linebacker. Like I feel genuinely so bad for him because he just got the worst of the worst when it came to college. Like I said, not being able to get to the depth chart, and when it was his time to come, he decided to go to UCLA and try to compete for a starting spot there, and then got hurt. But he's 6'1", 230 pounds, but he ran a 4.5 40. His relative athletic score was off the charts. It's in the nines. I think everything was green except his weight, like 230. You'd ideally want that to be like 220, probably somewhere around that range, maybe even like 215. But yeah, he ran a 4.5 40 still, flat 4.50. And he did play under Kid Norton Jr., which like a lot of these UCLA players did. Cam Arnold, the guy we drafted, played there as well when Kid Norton was there 2 years ago. And he missed, like I said, he missed 22, missed 23 because of injuries, but he has everything it takes to be a really good linebacker. He just got the worst, the short end of the stick every single year. It seemed like felt bad for him. But in his 8 games in 2024, he had 26 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and 1 sack. So this one's tough because if you just look on paper, number 1 linebacker in his recruiting class, was in college for a long time. He was in Alabama's 2018 recruiting class, if I'm not mistaken. But he missed the 2 years because of injury, so he got his 7th year and declared for the draft after this past season. He has all the tools, but can he just stay healthy, put it all together, and really get things going for you? Can we find another screw loose oos out there to go with Frankie Louisville? And I like LK, who is amazing. Like, he's a genuinely good guy. I watched the interview when he was talking about coming back and playing after having 2 years off because of the injury. And there's something with his leg. I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but just unfortunate. So I'm pulling for him. Not just because he went to Alabama. He's just a genuinely good dude. Has all the physical traits. And once again, I don't really know what that depth looks like at linebacker. I think the top 4 guys, obviously, Louvu, Wagner, who will be gone after this season, Drano, McGee, and then you got Dom Hampton back there as well. That's in the depth chart. And then Nick Ballore, who's the special teams guy. So not really too sure. Maybe he has a practice squad spot, but we'll see. But to be honest with you, there's been 2 guys that signed late. That might be my favorite 2 out of all of them. One's on offense, one's on defense. I'm going to skip Jakorey real quick. This one kind of snuck in. And Kam Arnold, linebacker from Boston College. This is a guy I knew just doing my prep for the college football season last year. He's stud linebacker, star defender for them. Really good linebacker, to be honest with you. This one went really under the radar. He finished with a 9.31 relative athletic score. He's 6 foot 227, ran a 4.58 40, a 1.53 10-yard split. Phenomenal. Had a 38-inch vertical, which is crazy. 10.3 broad. Just a crazy athlete. Big time athletic dude. 5 seasons at Boston College. He played in 54 games, had 257 tackles, 126 were solo. He had 10 tackles for a loss, 3.5 sacks, and 12 passes defended, 4 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions. And in his last season, he had 40 tackles, 19 solo, 2 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, 1 interception in 7 games before a season-ending injury in October. And I did everything in my power to look up what injury it was. I don't think they ever disclosed what it was. But nonetheless, it was back in October. I think it was some kind of leg injury. I don't know. But he was a safety that transitioned over to a linebacker when he got to Boston College, and he just played lights out. Big time physical hitter, really good in coverage. I mean, he's a complete backer in my opinion. I think this one is a really sneaky, really under the radar signing. I didn't even see it until I really broke down today and looked, got tweeted out 3 days ago. How did I not see this, to be honest with you? I haven't seen anybody mention Kam Arnold, but he looked healthy. I mean, he did all the offseason stuff. He did his pro day stuff. Obviously, he's good to go. He looked amazing. So I never would have guessed he had an injury with all the numbers that he put up in his pro day and stuff throughout the draft process. So fantastic numbers. And he's a former team captain from this last season. I think he was the year before that too. But This was a guy who was one of the best players on that Boston College defense. I mean, he's so much fun to watch. Like I said, he's just all over the place. He's fast, great in coverage, great run stopper, does it all. Just, got hurt and then just kind of got forgotten about, which sucks. You see that with a lot of players in the draft this year, to be honest with you. But I just could not believe that I didn't see this one. But I like this guy a lot. This is a guy that I'm rooting for in camp. I think if there's a linebacker that makes the team that's not getting talked about enough, I think Kam Arnold has a real shot. The dude's a stud, absolute stud. But then the big one, my favorite one, another former Alabama player, Jakorey Brooks, wide receiver out of Louisville. Mike Garafolo said is headed to Washington as an undrafted free agent. The Alabama transfer had 61 catches for 1,013 yards and 9 touchdowns last season. Because like I said, he was at Alabama. Freshman season, made one of the best plays in Iron Bowl history, catching a pass from Bryce Young to force overtime with like 20 seconds left. Unforgettable play, big time playmaker. But just once again, couldn't really get through the depth chart to be like that number 1, number 2 guy. But then he goes to Louisville. Last year, he only had 1 season there and popped off. He was a big time weapon for Tyler Shuck, who got drafted 40th overall. But this is what I wrote down in my notes. Lone season at Louisville, 61 catches, 1,013 yards and 9 touchdowns, like I just said. The thing that stands out about him, and I said he's a vertical threat, and everyone's like, oh, Josh, he ran like a 4.5 something, 4, low 4.6, whatever it was. I can't remember. Speed isn't everything. Anquan Bolden ran like a 4.72 or something like that. And Anquan Bolden was phenomenal. It's all about one, play speed, which it has nothing to do with your 40 time. But then second, your route running. How good of a route runner are you? Jakorey Brooks has a full route tree, to be honest with you. He can run it all. Inside routes, vertical routes, outside routes, short routes, all of it. His tree looks like a Christmas tree, and Luther Burden's looks like a twig you picked up that has 3 branches on it. Like, he has a complete route tree. And why he's so good at going deep and getting vertical is because he knows how to stack DBs. First off the release, start of the route, he does a good job of swiping DBs that try to press him. He does a good job of fighting hands, and he can get that leverage, and he gets outside. Just because he's not blowing past them like Isaiah Bond or like Xavier Worthy or somebody, that doesn't mean you're not a vertical threat. Can you run routes? Jakorey Brooks can run routes. That's for damn sure. So he does a good job swiping press, getting outside, going upfield, getting in his route, and he's really good at getting separation right before the catch point. So whether it's like in his break point or he's fighting with the DB or maybe it's a contested catch, he had a 69.6% contested catch rate last season. That is insane. That is nuts. He ran a 4.65 40-yard dash. Don't even care. Like I said in my notes, he's a really good deep threat because he can stack DBs. He swipes through press coverage and he knows how to get separation late in routes. Excellent catch radius is another thing that pops out. What does your body control look like? Your catch radius should be way better than most DBs, most corners. And he had one play, I shared it when I tweeted it out, against Georgia Tech. When he was held, it was pass interference, and then late he, contorts his body, flips his hips, and then just like plucks the air out of nowhere. Plucks the ball out of the air, and then just like trots in the end zone. It's like, that's a weird play. Like, how is that even possible? Like, he's being held, they're like fighting on the sideline, and then all of a sudden he just turns and catches it out of nowhere, and it just catches you off guard. But I'm telling you, if we keep 7 wide receivers, I think Jakorey Brooks has a good chance of being one of the 7 wide receivers. You got Terry McLaurin, obviously. You got Debo. You got Lane in the slot now. You got Luke McCaffrey. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. You got Noah Brown. Then after that, you got KJ Osborne. You got Michael Gallup, who's going to fight for a spot. Not really too sure what to expect from him. Then you got some other guys. KJ Osborne didn't play at all last season. I like KJ Osborne, but if we're talking about getting younger, if we're talking about getting new guys in there, just big play threats, I'm I might take Jakorey Brooks over KJ Osborne, and I'm probably going to take him over Michael Gallup, depending on what he looks like. Obviously, Michael Gallup has some upside to him if we can get back to what he was, but retired, came back. We'll see. Don't know what to expect. But do not sleep on Jakorey Brooks. If there's one player from this entire list that I read, whether it is rookie minicamp invites or undrafted free agents, Jakorey Brooks is the number one guy who has a chance of making the team. I will say Jakorey Brooks. I think Kam Arnold is a big-time sleeper. Big-time sleeper, one, because people didn't even hear about him, but also because I think she's a big-time stud. I think he's exactly what they like in a player. Like I said, team captain, just all over the place, high energy, complete linebacker. Outside of that, I think Robert McDaniel's at the top. Like if I'm putting my group together of guys that have a chance of making the team, Jakorey Brooks, Kam Arnold, Robert McDaniel, Tim McKay, if he can heal up. And then that fight with Fentrell Cypress and Carlin Vigors is going to be something to watch. And then obviously we're hoping for the best with Gabe Taylor, see if he can get a roster spot. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, for only having 5 picks, they did some serious work in this undrafted free agency, and they made some home runs. They paid some money. They went and signed Matt Gay today at kicker. So at post draft, they are doing some stuff to really get going, and I don't think they're done. So like I said, I have an article coming out of more free agents that they could sign, some edge rushers in there to where they can really address that position. But hopefully y'all got something out of this. So what I would do if I was y'all, don't even just go out and watch highlight reels. Watch like full games. Go watch some Louisville games and see what Jakorey Brooks does. Just follow him every play. Whether he's getting the ball or not, see what he does blocking, see what he does when someone else has the ball, or, check out the plays that he does big, but never just look at a highlight and say, oh yeah, this guy's really, really good. Well, of course, a highlight's going to make somebody look really, really good, but just go watch some early Boston College games this year. Go look at the schedule, pick a couple out, watch them. Same with Jakorey Brooks, watch them. Just watch some film. Watch some film on these guys until, we get to camp. I'm headed back to Virginia literally next week. So I'll be at practices and stuff like that, really getting an idea of what these guys look like. But hopefully y'all enjoyed the video and got something out of it. Make sure you subscribe and hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see y'all next time.